Hello guys, welcome to Waste to Treasure podcast, and I'm Absolomy, your host, and please welcome my guest, Mr. Justin Salani, the co-director of Climate 21st organization. Mr. Justin, how are you?
Thank you very much, Absolomy. I'm doing great, and it's actually a good opportunity for me to be here.
Thank you. Well, Mr. Salani, my first question for you today is, I hear you describe yourself as science and climate communicator. What inspired you to pursue that path?
Okay, by profession, I'm a communicator. I'm into science and climate communication. So basically, this is my academic background. But I discovered something that was actually missing in the Zimbabwean context, which is actually climate communication. If we go to school today and ask someone if they've ever heard of climate communication, you'll find out that no one will really say that we have heard of climate communication before. So I found it as a niche. Then I had to venture into climate communication with the main purpose to communicate climate change to the public, to communicate sustainable development to the public, and to simplify the science behind climate change to make sure that the public understands and is involved in the climate discourse. That's basically the reason why I had to join the climate space as a communicator.
Okay, thank you. So, in other words, the public, you mean Gabegulama youth party and engaging them about the climate and science. Okay, so what role does communication play in climate action?
Yes, you have mentioned the issues to do with youth. Youth are the primary audience for me because I am also a youth. So you see what happens when a youth is actually speaking to a youth, like how I'm speaking to Absolomy today. So yes, we see climate change is very, very important, especially in youth engagement. We need to encourage public action. And one of the reasons why climate action is actually missing in some parts of Africa, including Southern Africa in particular, is that there is a lack of motivation towards climate action itself. And climate science is considered a complex phenomenon, an abstract phenomenon, which is very, very difficult for some to understand. So by engaging in climate science communication, we are there to ensure that the public understands. That is goal number one. And when they have understood, what then do we need to do to encourage them to have the actual vocabulary that is needed for them to communicate, to feature on global platforms, to communicate about climate change and influence policies. We need to see youth, we need to see the public being involved in public debates. We need to see them involved in parliamentary consultations on issues to do with climate change. So it only happens when there is effective communication. When climate change, which is actually considered complex, like I said, is communicated in simpler terms that the public, that the youth, and even the elderly can understand. You know, when you bring concepts in climate science, someone will talk about global warming, someone will talk about carbon sequestration, that is in the scientific discourse. But if you come and say, you see, the reason why it's becoming hotter today is because there's climate change, you know, our public will understand, and then they will actually be motivated to join the climate discourse. So climate change is really important when it comes to public engagement, public involvement in policy discourses, public vocabulary, and also it is their right to science. You know, climate change is a complex science, and the Declaration on Human Rights indicates the importance of that right to science. So by communicating it in simpler terms, we are encouraging or we are actually promoting that right to science.
Okay, thank you. So basically, you'll be leading these youth through this whole process of climate and science.
Definitely, we actually, when we're talking about youth involvement in climate communication, the abstract way that we actually involve in is education. We get into communities, educate them. This is what climate change is. This is what causes climate change, and this is what we need to do. If we don't do this could happen, something like that. So definitely we get the communities engaged with the youth, engaged with the public to make sure that they have an appreciation of the science behind climate change, what climate change exactly is all about.
Okay, thank you so much. So in trying to engage the youth and the public in the local communities, are there any challenges which you face during the process?
Well, in terms of challenges, climate science has often been a techno-scientific concept. There is a technology aspect when we talk about meteorological forecast. There is the scientific concept that come with it. I've mentioned issues to do with the terminology that is involved. So climate change is said to be complex, so difficult. So one challenge that we face is lack of understanding what climate change is all about and the science behind it. And also we have quite a number of issues that come through our socio-cultural context. If we go in the peri-urban or the rural areas, there is actually a religious understanding of the concept of climate change. Because when we get there, try to explain, no, it's the science tells us that climate change is being caused by the greenhouse gases that are being emitted. But you find out that someone say, no, because we are no longer following the traditional concepts that we have been using to bring the rain, then this is the reason why we're having these persistent droughts. So there is actually a religious and a cultural explanation to it. If you go to areas such as Matopo, you'll find out that there were some traditional aspects that were actually done, like bush cleansing, where people would go and cleanse, in preparation for the season, saying that the rain is going to be good if the rain season is going to be good if we do that. Okay. So the challenge that we have now is the social cultural conundrum, where we have our own understanding of the religious aspects to do with weather patterns and so forth. So public engagement is affected by the social cultural factors. Number two, resources. We need to go out there to communicate. We need to go out there to educate. But you find out that if I do not have funding, I cannot really drive to my pizza there and go and teach young children in schools to say, this is what we can do to stop climate change, this is what we can do to stop pollution. So resources are really a challenge. So it's a matter of the science, the social cultural factors, and the economic aspect that comes with climate action.
Thank you, Mr. Salani. And now this marks the end of this segment. And please don't go away. Join us for the next segment.
The Waste to Treasure podcast, a youth-led climate awareness and storytelling space, which is sponsored by the City of Bulawayo, the Youth Climate Action Fund, and Bloomberg Philanthropies.
Hello guys, welcome back to the second segment of Waste to Treasure with my guest, Mr. Justin Salani. Well, I have heard that you presented papers on topics like AI, climate science, misinformation, and animal health. Would you please tell me what inspired you to explore these intersections?
Okay, thanks for that question. I'm actually an early career researcher, and I'm interested much in climate science. So this was actually my personal observation that there is an increasing prevalence in climate-induced animal diseases. So we realized that there's a gap in the scientific discourse as to what exactly can be done and what measures that can be put in place to solve the problems that are being caused by the worsening climate crisis. So the paper on artificial intelligence and animal health was also inspired by the buzzword artificial intelligence. The arrival of ChatGPT, everyone began talking about artificial intelligence. Some came with negative connotations, some actually exploited the technology. So we realized that we do not have to miss the bus and join others in exploring how we can leverage artificial intelligence in animal health communication. So basically it was an intersection of two aspects. The proliferation of artificial intelligence and also the increasing prevalence of animal diseases that are caused by climate change. Then we had to research and solve that particular challenge.
Okay, I understand. But unfortunately, as for me, I seem to be having a problem with technology. So could you please help me to understand how can AI and digital media improve to improve public understanding of climate change?
Bringing it to the issues of climate science, communication, climate change, communication, animal health, communication, artificial intelligence tools are really important. Remember, we mentioned in our previous episode that climate change is considered an abstract and complex phenomenon. And artificial intelligence, for example, those natural language processing tools such as ChatGPT can easily simplify climate change, the terminology itself. Okay. So we can use it to simplify the terminologies. We can also use it to spread information. I'm quite sure you might have heard of WhatsApp-based chatbots, the one that is yes. implemented by the Zimbabwe Environmental Organization, for example. You just ask questions, then you get your responses there.
Yeah.
So artificial intelligence is really important in improving access to climate information and also in simplifying the complex science behind climate change. Besides that, we look into the science itself. Climate change is really difficult, like I said, and complex, and artificial intelligence can be used to analyze large volumes of data, and then we are able to project the future, and then we are able then to also communicate effectively. You know, these early warning systems,
yes,
they've been enhanced by technologies such as artificial intelligence. Of course, I have dealt much with artificial intelligence, but there are some technologies that we can actually use, which also include augmented reality and virtual reality. You know, virtual reality simulations have been important in encouraging public action for scenario mapping, actually. You know, VR technologies, we can actually map how the city of Bulawayo is going to be affected by floods in 2040, and then have youth or anyone to wear that VR device, and then they can experience, they can interact, and then see how devastating the impacts of climate change could be. So digital media, artificial intelligence technologies, augmented reality are really important in climate action. Think of augmented reality and plant health monitoring. You know, climate change is causing serious challenges on our crops, increasing heat stress and so forth. So we can actually use augmented reality platforms to observe plant response to heat stress. So there's quite a lot that we can actually use artificial intelligence and other related technologies in climate action.
Wow, this is powerful. You know, when they say some people, they are born with greatness and others, they achieve greatness. Now I know where you stand. Well, and I once did a small research on you, and I came across a paper which emphasizes indigenous knowledge and decoloniality in your work. Can you explain why these are important in shaping sustainable climate solutions for Africa?
Okay, just forget about decoloniality, Afroecology, the terminologies that are in my papers. Those are academic, those are textbooks. But when we're looking at decolonial approaches to climate action, we really looking at indigenous solutions to climate action. We had our own understanding of the climate before the arrival of science, of Western science in particular. We could listen to the land, you know, the birds would actually tell you. We have the southern ground hornbill. That one, when it begins to produce a specific sound, then you can tell that it's actually the rain season, right? We know the issues to do with rain-making ceremonies. They could actually be held in order to have the rains for us. So these are actually the indigenous ways in which we can actually leverage today. And then we can bridge this with what? The Western or modern science and technologies. So indigenous knowledge systems are very important in various ways. For example, we have disaster risk management or disaster risk reduction, the prevention part of disasters. Because there are some plants that can even tell us that this year there's going to be drought. The flowering of certain plants will tell you that there's a drought, and then we don't need a specific scientist to come to tell us that we are going to have a drought. Then we prepare for that particular disaster. We also have floods. Birds migrating, they can actually inform us of the rain patterns. So disaster prevention, disaster management can be informed by indigenous knowledge systems. Even the communication that we have been bringing into the space, we have our traditional leaders, indigenous leaders. They are educating orally people within our communities on how best they can preserve the environment, ensure that we mitigate against climate change.
Okay, thank you so much. Speaking of floods, I know this can lead to wetlands, and I know we have got a challenge here in many cities. Wetlands often become dumping sites for solid waste. From your perspective, how can effective waste management practice help?
That is one of the major challenges that are affecting African cities. In one of my research on smart cities in Africa, we also looked into sustainable waste management systems that would prevent the dumping of waste in wetlands. They are not really wastelands, actually. They are wetlands. So it's really important to manage them. If you look at some of these small rivers that we actually have within Bulawayo, you find out that they are clogged, they're actually polluted with plastic waste. Yet it is our duty to make sure that we don't have such kind of waste getting into our water bodies, into our wetlands. So one of the best ways that can actually be done is waste separation, and then you guys are into recycling and upcycling. You know that if we collect this waste and we encourage waste separation, it may not really end up into these wetlands. So we take the plastic waste in particular, get it recycled, we then maintain our wetlands as pristine. That you mentioned the issues to do with wetlands. That's one of the things that worry me a lot. In one of the researches or the mappings that were done by Bulawayo City Council and the Environmental Management Agency, they mapped 26 wetlands and 4 only were pristine. Some were moderately degraded and some had actual infrastructure on them. So looking at the importance of wetlands in biodiversity conservation, also the regulation of our underground water sources, we really need to protect these wetlands and maintain the 4 as pristine and try to also rehabilitate those that have been degraded.
Thank you so much, Mr. Salani. This now marks the end of this segment, and as we heard, we have learned a lot. We as youth, we have a lot of work to do, come up with innovative ideas whereby we can help to reduce waste and turn it into treasure. Guys, welcome back to the third and final segment of Waste to Treasure, and I'm with my guest, Mr. Salani. Well, coming back, I heard you run a blog. It's called I forgot the name, but can you tell us what inspired you to start it?
Okay, the blog is called The Scrivener. A Scrivener is a writer. Basically, I'm a writer. So the inspiration came from some of the readings that I've been going through for quite some time. You know, these renowned authors, I'm not going to mention them, but the Scrivener, initially, it was a blog for issues to do with sustainable development. So we actually realized that there is a challenge here with my colleagues in terms of writing in-depth articles that cannot make it in the newspaper. You know, editorial policies may not allow some of kind of scripts that are actually written by inexperienced individuals. Yes. So for us, we are against that kind of approach where it's often the top to bottom approach, where we have to look for an expert to write on a specific aspect. So what we have to do is, we are having a blog is for you, Absolom, and then you do not have much experience, but you have the passion. We help you, we write, and then we get the information out there.
Okay. So the blog, does it have the types of questions or topics that you focus on specifically, or it can just accommodate anything?
Mostly on sustainable development. We had a category that is on sustainable tourism, which was one of the main interesting aspects that we realized that, there's actually a lot of audience. People need to find out where to go, especially when it comes to green tourism, ecotourism. Then we also have another section on environmental issues in general. They were also looking at wildlife conservation. We also cover topics to do with waste management. We have been covering stories to do with waste pickers here in Bulawayo, those that have been distinguishing themselves. We have covered such kind of stories. So the purpose is to get all information on sustainable development, go out there and give an opportunity to young people, give an opportunity to the lay public to be able to speak or to share their voice, whether on policy issues, whether on what they're doing in the communities, or any area of specific interest within the context of sustainable development.
Oh, quite interesting. I think I personally, I will just look into it and try to see. So now I want to know, how do you see this digital storytelling shaping the climate education and advocacy here in Zimbabwe and the whole of Africa?
Storytelling is actually very important, especially on digital platforms. Given the complex nature of environmental issues, they are really difficult to understand for someone who is not in that particular field. Back to our earlier conversation, you realize that I kept on emphasizing the complex and abstract nature of climate science. So with storytelling, then we can break down this complexity and we can actually get a larger audience. Look at it. We actually have serious competition for attention online. Someone is posting a comedy aspect there, and so forth. So without borrowing from critical storytelling approaches, we cannot really get the attention of the lay public in this 21st century. So it's really important for us to leverage storytelling. So if you go back to the issues to do with indigenous knowledge systems and decoloniality that we mentioned earlier, storytelling has often been important in passing on critical information on the environment. You have myths, taboos, legends, folk tales. These storytelling techniques have actually been integrated in the past. Why is it that we cannot really leverage them today to deliver important information for sustainable development? So storytelling is really important.
Okay. Oh, that's a powerful and interesting approach. Well, now coming back to, I'm going to take myself as a youth. What message would you give to me, a young person like me? I want to partake in climate action and with my community as well, but I have limited resources.
Okay, because indeed resources are a challenge. Even big organizations have been struggling given the cut off of aid from other funders that have been providing a lot of resources. So for you who is starting as a youth, it's important to start small. In fact, what I would advise, join a local organization. Here in Bulawayo, we have quite a number of organizations that are taking volunteers. Typical example include Green Heart Trust. So you can also join the guys at Climatepreneur. They can actually show you the way. So it's important to start small, join a local organization, get the education that you need. And then once you feel that you are mature, you have the confidence, you have the information, you can then go into the communities. One of the things that I often emphasize is to go to children. Even if you break your English talking to a child, they will never laugh. Even if you speak without confidence to them, they will never notice. Go to children, talk to them about environmental protection. Tell them it's not right to throw litter everywhere. Start from there. Go to your community, go to your local school, talk to school children there. That's a critical starting point. Resources always follow resources, and the resource that you actually have is your intellectual curiosity and your ability to lead and innovate. So it's important for you to start. Once you start, the resource will follow.
Oh, thank you so much. I feel so basically it means for me to be part of this, I have to start small.
Definitely, you have to start small.
Thank you so much, Mr. Salani. If I may ask, are there any future or upcoming projects or collaborations?
Well, from our organization, Climate 21st, we have several programs that are actually coming through, including the Climate Science Communication Workshop that is going to be held here in Bulawayo, where we are going to be training, the days are going to be advised, we are going to be training youth and other people within the community to understand how to effectively communicate on climate change. We are also open to other organizations. We believe that if we come together, we can then influence policies effectively. We cannot work in silos and change a parliamentary policy. But if we come together, then there's an opportunity for us to have a common voice and influence national policies.
Thank you so much, Mr. Salani. Okay, for those who want to know more about you, where would they get you?
Okay, I am personally available on all social media platforms. You can check me on Facebook. I'm there as just as Salani. If you go on LinkedIn in particular, we mostly interact with youth on LinkedIn. It's on Justin Salani. Then organizational platforms, we are also on LinkedIn as Climate 21st. We are also on Facebook as Climate 21st. You can also find us on Instagram and also on Twitter at Climate 21st.
Thank you so much, Mr. Salani. This now marks the end of this episode, Waste to Treasure. And thank you guys for tuning in. If you're feeling inspired, remember, every action counts. But don't forget to to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on our socials at Waste to Treasure. Until next time, stay green, stay creative. And remember, one man's trash is another's treasure.